How you guys doing? This lesson, we're going to go into more keyframes, and we're going to start to tweak the interpolation between the keys, and you can kind of get away with the animation with less keys using that. And we're just going to adjust those handles of the interpolation, very similar to the pen tool using the Illustrator or the masking with the pen tool in After Effects. And of course we're going to continue using our keyframe assistant with the Easy Ease. And by the end of this class, I'm sure you guys are going to love me.
I love you, you love me.
Because we're going to do this little bouncing dot across the text.
With a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too?
Oh yeah, I went there. We're all going to go there. So this is something that I did first, but we're going to start fresh. Because sometimes you get this kind of stuff from clients and you just got to deal with it. So we're going to make ourselves a new comp. Same thing as before. What is this one named? Animation 1. I'm going to put in my folders. Supporting comps. And say this client is Barney, and they got it some audio for us. We're going to bring in some audio, and they have a background for us, which is Barney. Just see what else we got. I got my title sequence. So I'm going to bring in Barney. I'm going to bring in the audio. Now the audio is a lot shorter, which is good. Select it, hit the letter O. Jumps to the out part of the clip. I'm going to cue in my piece. I'm going to zoom in on it. So now we have our audio down here. I'm going to hit save. Of course I named that wrong. Let's just say this. It's more appropriate. I didn't do it live yet. Saving this guy. So we have audio down here, and audio usually has the waves, and you can find those waves in this little drop down. But before you do that, you always want to save your file. Depending on your computer, sometimes that waveform will crash your machine. So especially when you have all of it viewed. I'm going to toggle this down, and then see it says waveform right here, and it will show up. And you have your levels where you can control like how strong, how loud it can be. And then you can see this little area here. The cool thing about After Effects is, yes, you can hit 0 on the number keypad like we've been doing, or maybe we haven't been doing. But you can hit 0 on the number keypad, and it will preview. It'll start to cache where it's not real time, but it'll start caching this little green line, and when it's done, it'll play it back at real time.
I love you, you love
You can look up here. You see the waveform, the audio meter.
family.
If it's going into the red, that's when it's too strong and too loud, and it could ruin speakers and ruin people's ears too. But there's another option you can do for playback where it's just the audio, and that's the period on the number keypad. So if we had animation going, we wouldn't see the animation. It just doesn't upload this. It just kind of plays the audio back, and I'll be using that.
I love you, you love me.
So I want to zoom up on this waveform so we can look at it. I don't know how much you guys have dealt with audio, but you know, this audio file, if you take a look at it, you see these little variations look like little hills or mountains. You can zoom up on it and you'll see the little spikes. And sometimes the closer you get, the harder it is to see, so I keep it further back so I can see the definition of those peaks a little better. Because even if you get into it, it starts to look more of the same. It takes some getting used to know when you're zooming up what stuff is. So I keep it at a decent level so I can see these little peaks. Now these peaks are different words, and let's take a listen to one starting at this peak. And wherever you put your cursor, that's where it's going to start if you hit the period on the number keypad.
I love you.
So he says, I love you. And you see the little hill. Word, 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 and then hold. And then new word. A little bit of something there, so probably 2 words and a word. So let's listen to that part.
You love me.
And hopefully you can see that, you know, the word starts at every little mound. You know, there's like a little ditch and then it comes back up. That's when the word starts. And that little mound is when he takes a breath. So we can listen over here. We'll see this little dip.
Happy family.
And the syllables start to go along with these little hills and valleys. And we're going to use that. And to get to that quicker is if you select that audio file and hit LL, like Cool J, you get this waveform. And you hit it again. And it'll go back up. LL, LL. Pretty cool. And I'm hitting save with it closed so I don't crash anything. Now on my Barney, this is just a technicality. I'm going to fit this to width. And the client wants to have the lyrics like karaoke on the bottom. So we need to get the lyrics. Luckily, I have some lyrics. And we can copy and paste this into this file. And I'm going to do it on the first line here. Copy, go to my text tool, paste. Now I already kind of set this up, so let's default this guy. To something horrible. Alright, let's do it again. Okay, so I got my text in here, my first line of lyric. I'm going to go in and do my paragraph. I'm going to center it. And then I'm going to go to my line tools. And I'm going to center that. Now looking at this line, it's not very long, so if we kept it at this size, some other text at the same size might be cut off. So let's take a look at our lyrics. This is the longest line, so we can use this line as a good testing bed to see how big our fonts and how big our text can be. So it's good to find the longest line that needs to fit in frame and adjust it from there, especially if you're doing people's names on a lower third or something like that. You want to find that guy's long name and design with that long name, because if you design with the short name and you put that long name in there, it can mess some things up. So I'm going down to the bottom of the Y and put it on that outer safe frame, the action frame guideline. And I picked a yellow. Yellow tends to jump out. Not saying that everything has to be yellow. I prefer white or black, but white or black just doesn't quite show up on here. Even though I'd lean towards the white, but sometimes the light area of this can kind of get away from you visually, so I'm going to turn it to yellow. And you can pull it back a little bit. So it's not pure yellow. Put some white in it, and it's not so harsh, but still readable. And we could look at our numbers, make sure they're rounded. It's looking good. Save. Okay, so set up your size of font and to the largest lyric, the largest line that you got, which is this guy. And now I can come in here and start making my text. It's centered, which is great because we have that guy turned on. I'm going to duplicate this line. I'm going to hide the first one. Go to the next lyric. Copy it. Paste it. Now what I just did there was, okay, I'm going to do it again. I'm going to Control D. Hide this one. I'm going to go to my lyric. Control C. Now I click out of here out of habit. I click back on it. And sometimes you're on the Move tool. You can double click and type. Or you can move back to your Move tool and then go to the Text tool and then do it. But After Effects knows you want to do some stuff pretty fast, so if you're on the Move tool and you have your text layer selected, you can just double click it and it'll jump you to the Text tool. And as a good standing, the Text tool is still active. If I do any quick keys, it's going to give me like text in here. I don't want that, so I click down here in this negative space, and then I can hit my quick key for my Move tool, which is V, and it doesn't affect my text. So always unselect, select down here, or come up here and select this selection tool to get off your text tool. I want to save that. I'm going to duplicate again, go to the next lyric, paste it in there, duplicate, last one, okay. So guess what we get to do now? We get to listen to Barney. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to listen to my audio, and then I'm going to listen to the audio, take this first line, and I'm going to make a clip. I'm going to make like this little section. I'm going to make an in and an out point. So this text visually is over this audio that you hear. So I'm going to line it up so I don't have to listen to this. I'm going to hit the period key.
I love you, you love me, we're a...
So here's where the next line comes in. That's about the end of this clip. So I'm going to do my quick key to make an out point, so we know that this whole beginning lyric stops right here. So that means this lyric must start from this point. So we'll make an end point. And now I'm going to listen to this to see where, and if it helps, turn this guy off and turn this one on. So we're just looking at one at a time.
We're a happy family with a great...
And I think it ends here, but let me just listen just in case.
With a...
So it's actually right here in this little ditch. And always try to, even in audio programs, if you're cutting audio, you want to cut as it goes down. So if you zoom all the way in there, there's probably like a spike and it goes down. You want to cut into the down.
With a
And I want to show you something too. So if we use this trim tool, which I just did, Alt, close bracket, then you zoom in, see how this little tail is there? I'm going to Control Z that, and I'm going to look over here and see how they're overlapping. So if we turn this guy on and then we mouse over, you see that there's like a little glitch. We don't want that glitch. So I want to show you a different way to trim, and you can just click and drag this guy to adjust your out point, but I drag it out so I can have more room in here and show you how this works. So if you want to trim and it be perfect and not have that little tail end on the end, you do Control-Shift-D. How's that? That's nice. The screen recording software uses that as another quick key to draw live on frame. That's not what I want. So I'm going to do this layer. Should be a split. Control-Shift-D will do that for you guys. So remember, you want to select your layer that you're on. Go to Edit, Split Layer, or Control-Shift-D. And that takes this layer, it splits it and puts the end part up on another layer right above it. And it's selected and I can hit delete. So if I zoom up on it, it didn't have the tail and it's a perfect frame to frame with no overlap. So that's what I use when I do my out point. After Effects likes to leave that frame, thinking that's where you want it to cut, and that's not usually where I want it to cut. Okay, so I'm going to listen again and find the chunk for We Are a Happy Family.
We're a happy family with a great
Right here.
with a
So I'm going to use this split layer again. It's the same layer, it's split to 2. I'm going to delete that because we don't want it. And I can do the beginning point, the end point for this guy, which is Alt, open bracket. Save. I'm going to listen to this part. Turn off these two, turn on this one, and that's what I'm going to look for.
with a great big hug hand.
So you just find the lowest point, and you can do that little split layer. And you can look at it to check. It's looking good. Turn this guy off, turn this one on.
And a kiss from me to you. One
Split layer again. Delete this guy. Begin this guy. And this should go to the end.
Won't you say you love me too?
So it pretty much goes out there, but I want to keep it to the end. Okay, so we got pretty much, let me turn it all on. We got everything in order, time to the audio, which is great. We've got that much done. Save. And now we get our little bouncing ball. So we need to create our bouncing ball, and hopefully we can. We do a new solid. Got our solid created, save it. I'm going to put a circle, generate, circle. There it is right there. I'm going to crank it up to about 485. Now I'm going to pre-compose this, call it circle, and I'm going to move all attributes because I have an effect on it. I don't just want the solid, I want the solid and the effect. So I'm moving everything, hitting OK. I can check, hit E, no effect, double click, hit E, there's my effect. Good. Everything is good. So it's ridiculously big. Let's go down to 20. I'm looking at the size compared to the letters. So let's take a look. I think 8, 7. 7's pretty good. Alright. So I don't want it to start on the eye. I want it to start somewhere over here and then bounce in and do little bounces. So I'm going to start it about there, switch over to my position. I'm going to key it. And I'm going to open up my audio again. And from my experience, I'm going to cue up just this clip. From my experience, this is it building up, and then there's I. So let's take a listen and look. I'm looking down here, and that's where I'm going to put my keyframe, is on these little tops of the hills, because that's where the words start.
I love you, you love me.
So I kind of did it with my mouse, and that's what I'm going to do for this guy. Come down here, and if it helps, turn off Barney. And I'm using this middle point to look at the middle of the eye, and I'm touching it. I'm going to shift arrow up a few times, and I'm going to hold that position across the whole thing vertically. So it's a straight line, but we're going to adjust that later. We're just going to put in keyframes and then go back and tweak the interpolation, the in-between space and the line. So let's look down here. I'm looking down here, and I'm looking at the mound. So let me listen to it again. And I'm thinking it's going to be here. It's going to be here, here, a little ditch, here, and here.
I love you, you love me.
So that's what I'm going to do. I'm gonna mouse over here, a little ditch. Here's a little high part. I'm gonna move it over. I'm not going to worry about the lines in between. And sing along if you want to. So I just went along to all these little peaks, and I moved it over, and hopefully everything matches. Like, make sure that you, if you don't understand what you're doing, listen to it again
You love me.
and find out where those peaks are to put your keyframe. So there's me. It's held out so it goes down. Now what I'm going to do here is, it's going to jump to this next lyric, and I want this ball to come all the way back to We're. So now I'm going to listen to where We're is. I think I'm over it, but I'm going to listen again.
We're
So it's right here. And I'm going to put a keyframe on We're. That means I'm going all the way back over here. Now I could put it right here. I want to do it right in the center of the word. And looking at my spline behind here, it's getting a little confusing. So we're going to adjust that. Zoom out a little bit. So this is what it looks like right now if I play it. Not what we want.
I love you, you love me.
Now how we're going to fix that is we're going to adjust these lines in between the keyframes. So like before, I'm hitting position, it selects everything. I'm going to mouse over one keyframe, right click it, go to keyframe interpolation, and I'm going to do continuous Bezier. So that makes sure that I get handles. Sometimes you don't get handles, and if you want those handles, which is what we want, just do it again. Okay, so I want it to look like McDonald's arches. So just like the pen tool, you can come down here and you have this tool. You can also stay in the move tool and you select it and you see you have access to these handles with the move tool. If you hold down Alt, it lets you break those handles. And this is a thing you just got to get used to. If you adjust this handle and you adjust this handle, it kind of resets this guy, and you just come do it again. So you're going to see me deal with this, and that's just something I live with, and I do it anyway, even though it looks like I'm crazy for adjusting this position over and over. Now this key, remember, that's this one further down, so try to ignore that guy. But we got this guy, we're on to this guy. So there is some overlap in the keys. Just be wary of that. So now I'm going to go back. You can hold down Alt, or you can come over here and use this tool. You want to always do Control and then use the tool to move it. If you want to select it and you have that tool, it'll change it. So be wary of that. You can change it and then you use your tool again to adjust it if you want to. And just get ready for that. Could be frustrating, but I always use my move tool first to select it, and I use Alt to adjust what I want to do. And I want to zoom out a little bit so I can use that handle and go up here because I want it to fly up and over. Here's this guy. So now we could actually look at our guys and adjust it. So I've got nice curves and want to play it back. And you'll see how it is.
I love you, you love me.
Now this beginning part's a little slow because I have the key from here to here. I'm going to just pull it back a little bit and move there. And if you take a look, I talked about these little knots. These knots are almost consistent except for this guy, but they're pretty consistent, and that tells you the speed. See how many knots are in there? That means it's really slow. So if I pull it back and just match those knots to this knot or any of the others, it'll keep it in the same neighborhood of speed. And you see I'm moving it from this area closer, and I'm looking at the knots at the same time and just matching the distance between them. And I'll play it back.
I love you.
It's not slow.
You love me.
Okay, so I had this guy go all the way to the beginning of Weir. Now, if I kept this going on this same line, you guys will go crazy because all these lines will stack up visually. Trajectories will almost be overlapping, and you won't know which Bezier handle you're clicking, and it can get confusing. So I'm going to make a layer for each one of these guys. And the way to do that is you split the layer. So it'll be a perfect cut. So I'm going to go to Edit, Split the Layer. And if you take a look, it's the same layer, it's just the back end of it. We have the front end and the back end. See how it looks? Front end, back end. And there's a perfect cut, which is what we want. So this guy has the front end with the keys. This has keys on the front end, but all we need is these two keys to line up. So I'm going to delete the keys down here on this other layer because we had those keys here. So I got the beginning and I got a new clip down here. If that helps, we can keep these clips together. So they kind of belong together. This overlap is just how it happens. You got to get comfortable with that stuff. Okay, so I hit my U key, it brings up all animated properties. And you hit it again and it'll hide it. So now we're on this new lyric. I've got a new layer. Nothing's confusing. And now I can set up my animation for this guy. So I'm going to set up my cue. And I'm going to hit preview.
We're a happy family.
Now what I'm doing is, this is the beginning of We're, and I need to listen and see where those peaks are to know where to put my keyframes. Now happy has 2 syllables. So I'm going to bounce it here, and family has 3, 1, 2, 3, and I'm going to find these down here in this little sound wave.
We're a happy family with a great
I can find the end.
family with a great.
Okay, there's the end. Made sure I was at the right, correct end. I'm going to listen to it again.
We're a happy family with a great.
Okay. So we're let me just listen again.
We're a happy.
And if it helps, just do a little bit at a time. We're and I'm moving it to the right and holding down shift so it's perfect. And I'll adjust those bounces later. This is hap. I'm kind of putting in the middle of the syllable. Make sure I'm where I'm supposed to be. And then I'm guessing that's family.
Family.
That one's easy. It's very visible. And it's Control Z. And this isn't too bad. You could probably get an entry-level job doing stuff like this, knocking it out, doing your own kids' videos, and maybe make some money yourself. So let me play it back. It's going to be ugly, but we got to look at it.
We're a happy family.
And notice that dip. That's it trying to be a continuous Bezier. So speaking of that, look at this guy. Since I duplicated it and started making new keys, it just kept this one on a continuous Bezier, and these other ones are very linear. No handles. I don't see anything like that. So just to be sure, you can select them all, go to the keyframe, and just do it again. And now we have cleaner handles, and we can start to adjust this stuff. I like to move my whatever I'm animating in the middle so I'm not over a handle. It's kind of hard to see. Or you can move it down and then work with these handles. So I'm going to move it up, mess it up, kind of good practice to mess it up anyway. Or you could do this once you get the hang of it. Now I'm going to move this guy down. Go to my move tool. Move this guy. Ooh, and I realized I did not jump to the next lyric. So I got to do that, because that's important. Because I jumped to the lyric before I cut my layer. That's very, very important. So let's see, when I'm looking for the next word.
With a great.
With, it's about right here. I'm going to move right here to the middle of with. It's almost on that key. And now I'm going to adjust this keyframe. Now what's good about this pen tool and holding down Alt, or just using this kind of tool that looks like an arrow, there's no handle there, but if you click where the keyframe is, like that little square, but for my object that I animate, and you click it and you pull out, click and hold out, it gives you a Bezier handle. So when there isn't one, you can create one with this, because you're creating whatever vertex that is to whatever you want. So now it jumps over. And before I get too carried away, I want to see what it looks like. I'm just going to go to the beginning of the keyframe. Now I'm going to preview it.
I love you, you love me, we're a happy family.
Okay. It's good to check on stuff, make sure it's not messed up, and you continue to use something that is messed up when you can go back and fix it while it's early. Okay, so I have it bouncing through the lyric, and I have it jump all the way back to the new word, which is great because that's a good position to split my layer. I'm going to turn off those properties. I'm going to turn on this property, delete everything but that keyframe, because that's what we're going to start off with. I'm going to put this above. Now to queue up this, zoom up just a little bit, save. So now I'm going to watch as I play it back, and I'm going to look at these peaks and match up the syllables to that.
With a great big hug and
With a great big hug. So you start to get an eye for this audio, visualizing how this audio works, hopefully. And you probably notice why I picked that little notch, because on the word great it increases in volume. So I'm looking at the ditch and then I see great, kind of like Tony the Tiger there. So I just see that little chunk, which is right there, and then increase. And it helps if you edit some audio too. Now big is a little iffy.
great big hug and
Okay, so it's about right here. And then hug is down there. Now we need to find the next word,
a kiss.
which is and. Alright. So now I'm going to make sure everything is continuous and clean. Continuous Bezier. Got our handles. and you should be able to tweak it. Okay, that's the outer one. I'll just leave that up so it's not too confusing. If you're an expert, see, even then it messes it up. You just have to get used to adjusting this thing and then it breaks. It's silly, but hey, it's the type of math that you have in the program. Just gotta live with it. Patience. Okay, so we got our interpolation looking pretty good. Play it back.
With a great big hug.
And if you're tired of that, you could always turn off the audio and play it back. Save. It's very important to save. Now this is back on and. Time to split the layer. I'm going to delete all those position keyframes except for what will be the first keyframe. And you can click and drag this guy if you want. And it's kind of neat if you can almost guess where it is, but it takes some skill.
And a kiss from me to you. And a kiss from me to you.
Alright. And a kiss from me to you. I think it's there, but let me listen again.
From me to you. From me to
From me. What just happened? Weird. I somehow hit a quick key or accidentally clicked this guy. And everything disappeared. Alright. So back to what I was doing. The word kiss.
kiss from me to you.
From me to. Let's just test it.
Me to you. To you.
Two is there. You.
You.
Alright, let me see.
Kiss from me to you. Me to you.
And now we need to listen for the next word so we can jump it across. Whoa. So let's listen.
Won't you s-
Right there. Okay, and then we go back, go to interpolation, continuous. Okay. Alright, I'm going to select them all so I can see some handles. I go to my special tool here. I see a dot there. All the little dots are the handles. I'm just going to go through there and break them all. And I'm going to go back and fix it. mess with that yet. I'm going to zoom out a little bit. It's not what I wanted. Maybe I got to zoom up. See, that's so close to that keyframe, the handle there, it doesn't know which way I want to go. So that takes some getting used to. So I got everything out of its way, you know, so it's a little clearer. And then I can go in there and readjust. And that's looking about right. Playback.
And a kiss from me to you. And a kiss from me to you.
So this is our last key. We're going to save it. We're going to split the layer. Save. Get rid of all those keyframes behind that. And this is the last one. Lucky you. It's a lot of words, so we might need to do it chunk by chunk. Now I'm going to listen and watch my waveform and match it up to the words.
Won't you say you love me too? Won't you say you love me too?
Alright. Right about there is the next word. Say might be right here. Let's see.
You say.
Yep. You right here. Control Z. Let me see.
Say you love. Say you.
See, I'm adjusting it because got ahead of myself.
You say. You say.
No, I was right. Let me do it again.
Won't you say you love?
And here's love. Interesting. Doesn't hurt to keep checking as you go,
You love me.
because it does get a little confusing.
You love me.
Two. Let's play that back with visuals.
Won't you say you love me? Won't you say you?
Something right here in the middle. Let me watch it
Won't
again.
you say you love me? Won't,
Now I'm going to look down here on the waveform.
won't you say you love me? Won't you?
And if you hold down Control, you can get little chunky playback as you scrub.
Love me.
So I'm off a little bit. Try to follow along. So say is this whole part. I can almost move this down to this guy. So this should be say. You love me too. Now I'll play it back.
Won't you say you love me too? Won't you?
Finally. Okay. Now I can select this guy. Go to interpolation. Go to continuous Bezier. And I can adjust my little humps. My lovely After Effects humps. And go back and fix those handles that were broke. LL. Now I'm going to hit preview.
Won't you say you love me too? Won't you say?
Alright. Okay, now after all that, we can put easing on these guys. And the one thing that you can do is you can select all of them. You can drag and select like that, or come down here and select them all with their positions. You can right click over one of them, keyframe assistant, easy ease. So that easy ease is going to give it on every key, which is where it goes down, it's going to slow down, and it's going to feel like you can read that word with it, and then it's going to bounce up faster. But before we play that back, we're going to look towards the end. Because we're at the end. I'm going to toggle down my opacity, toggle down my audio. It looks like it's starting to go down right there, so I can mark it up right here. Go to my opacity, make a keyframe, and make another key. They're both at 100. I want it to fade off. So you can hit 0. I'm actually off the clip, and I want it to fade off. I want to do the same at the beginning on the text. I'm looking at the audio right here. It ramps up and it evens out about right here. So I'm going to do my keyframe again. You can make a key with this guy, or you can just select one, Control C, Control V. That's my favorite. Hit 0. So I faded my text in and I faded it out. Now the circle. I want to copy this frame, line it up, paste, and I just copied these keys to here. And then I could split this frame again, split that layer, select that guy and delete it. So I have a clean cut. You can do the same thing with the Barney pick too. Copy, select, paste, hit the letter U, and it'll paste whatever you just copied from. And then I'm going to split that layer, delete, so everything fades to black. Guess what? I gotta do it at the beginning too. We want it to match our text. Control C, click on that layer, Control V, and now it fades up. So we put on our easy eases. I'm gonna hide this. We should be good to go. Save. My circle needs to be on top. Keep it consistent. Save. And now we can play it back. So when you hit preview, it's going to go through this and it's slow and it has no audio. That's because it's caching everything to RAM, and once it's done, it'll play it back at full speed, hopefully, depending on your computer. If it doesn't play all of it, you can reduce the resolution to quarter or half or third, and it'll hopefully play back then.
I love you, you love me. We're a happy family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too?
And that's sweet. Now that dot, even though I can come in here and change the color on my dot, I could change it there and say we want a red so it shows up. Now even though these are multiple clips, that dot is updated across all those clips because it's within this comp, and we're using this comp in this edit. And you play that guy back and everything's red. You could put a motion blur on this guy. And we're going to be using this technique with adjusting the interpolation on the next assignment. So get comfortable with it.
I love you, you love me. We're a happy family with a great big hug and a kiss from me to you. Won't you say you love me too?
So get comfortable with using your interpolation between keyframes and it'll be awesome. It's only going to get better. So see you guys next time.